Does having more money buy happiness? It does, to an extent. But the story is more complicated than a simple yes. Welcome to Plain English, Part 2 of our journey into the science of happiness. I'm Jeff, the producer is JR, and you are listening to the best podcast for learning English. This is episode 180, so all the episode resources, and I mean all the episode resources, are available at plainenglish.com/180. On today's episode, having more money is definitely better for your happiness than having less money, but it's not so simple. Many researchers find that after a certain point, the additional happiness you get from a higher income starts to decline, and that happens after about $50,000 in the US, which is a good middle-class income in most places. In the second half of the program, we'll talk about what it means to be better off. And the quote of the week is from the author J.R.R. Tolkien. Quick reminder about the emails that JR sends out. Every Monday and Thursday morning, JR sends an email to our growing list of subscribers. And the email includes a summary of the episode and some extra study resources. They are, number one, a description of one other word or phrase from the episode that we don't talk about, and number two, the English articles that I used to prepare the show. Now, believe it or not, I don't have all this knowledge in my head about intentionality and the eyelash viper and 5G networks and the girl from Ipanema, holograms, Mount Everest, Huawei. Believe it or not, I have to research these topics every week. And when I'm done writing the episodes, I look back at the links I used to prepare them, and I share those links with our email subscribers. So if you would like to be among those subscribers, please visit plainenglish.com/mail, M-A-I-L, and enter your details. On Thursday, we talked about whether it was possible to measure happiness and what the main causes of happiness were. Interestingly, only about 10% of our happiness is derived from our circumstances, like our social status, health, age, and, yes, income. I wanted to dig a little deeper in that last factor, your income or your wealth. Just so we are clear on the terminology, income is how much money you make in a month or a year. Wealth is how much money or how many assets you have accumulated in your life and how much you have at any one point. Now, there are two places I want to go with this. They're both interesting. First, for a single individual, how do changes in income or wealth affect your happiness? Do we really get happier as we get more money? The second thing I want to explore is whether societies are getting happier over long periods of time. We are undoubtedly far wealthier as a society now than we were 50 years ago. We're healthier, we live longer, we have better educations, better access to technology, better ways to communicate. We're more comfortable, more welcoming as a society, almost everywhere in the world. But are people happier today than they were, say, 50 years ago when we clearly had less material wealth? Well, let's start with the first one. I'm just going to state the obvious. life is better if you have a good income than if you don't. We'll get that one out of the way. But if you make $1 million in a year, are you twice as happy as if you only make $500,000? Is there a point at which making more money doesn't make you much happier at all? Surprisingly, studies show that in the United States, increasing your income makes a big difference to your happiness up to about $50,000 or $75,000 per year. What I mean by that is, if you make less than $50,000, then getting a raise makes a big difference to your happiness. But if you make much more than that, a raise is definitely nice, but it doesn't affect your overall happiness as much as it does for people who are making much less. There have been a lot of studies in the United States that focus on the middle class, and they all tend to find this same thing. But what about the people at the very top? People worth multiple millions of dollars. Are they happier, less happy, or about the same as the rest of us? In one study, Harvard researchers asked 4,000 people, each with a net worth of $1 million or more, to rate their happiness on a scale of 1 to 10. They compared the results of people with $1 or $2 million with those who had over $10 million in the bank. And they found that people who have a net worth of $10 million or more are 0.25 points happier than the ones with only $1 to $2 million. So what that means is that 5 to 10 times more money is equivalent to only 2.5% more happiness. I think I'd be happy with the $1 or $2 million. Here are a couple other nuggets from the survey. For the very rich, how you make your money matters to your happiness. If you earned the money yourself, you're much happier, on average, than those who inherited their money. One way the super rich can increase their happiness is by giving away their money to a good cause. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett created the Giving Pledge, in which the super rich promise to give away most of their wealth to charity. And indeed, people who give money away are happier on average than those who do not give money away. Now let's turn to the other question I posed at the beginning of the episode. In almost any country today, and I do recognize there are exceptions, but in almost any country today, we are materially much, much better off than we were 50 years ago. A middle-class family in many parts of the world today has a house with modern appliances such as refrigerators, air conditioning, a flat-screen TV, maybe even laundry. They have access to better health care. They and their children are far better educated. They live longer. They travel to much more interesting places. And their work is generally less dangerous and less physically demanding. In other words, the average family today would be living like kings if we transported their life back in time 50 years. So, is the average family today much happier than the average family was 50 years ago? Well, over a long period of time, people in wealthier countries don't get happier as a group. What I mean by that is this. Japan has measured happiness since the 1950s. Although Japan has experienced a significant increase in material wealth in the last 70 years, the proportion of people who say they are happy has stayed the same. America has been measuring happiness among its citizens since the 1800s. And guess what? We have gotten a lot wealthier materially since the 1800s. But the proportion of Americans who say they are happy has not changed. And in that time, the U.S. went from being a minor figure on the world stage to an economic superpower. So why is this? Why do we see this? There are two potential reasons. One is that people get accustomed to what they have very quickly. That makes intuitive sense, and I think we all experience it. If you want something new, a new car, a new television, a new house, a new watch, whatever, you imagine its greatness before you have it. But as soon as you get it, then that becomes your new baseline, your new frame of reference. You don't feel a lot happier because you have it. It's now the new normal. Now you can crave something else. When you turn on your air conditioner, you don't think to yourself, wow, I'm so grateful to have this marvel of technology in my house. Imagine if I had lived just a century ago, I wouldn't have it. We don't say that. We just turn the AC on and we stand in front of the fan if it's really hot out, waiting for it to take effect. If I told you 15 years ago that you could have a supercomputer in your pocket with unlimited entertainment or productivity, you would have thought that all your problems in life would be solved. But here we are. Instead of marveling at it, we complain if the resolution on our streaming videos is too low. Why else do societies get richer but not happier? The other reason would be that people measure their own happiness relative to what they see other people doing. There will always be people who have more and people who have less. A large part of self-reported happiness is whether you're closer to the top or closer to the bottom among the people around you. Doing well is not enough. You want to do better than your peers. Having air conditioning, for example, that used to put you toward the top of most families in the United States. Now, almost every house in warmer climates has AC, and the new status symbol has changed to, solar panels or tankless water heaters or something like that. I hope you've enjoyed these 2 episodes on measuring happiness. It's rare that I do 2 episodes on the same topic, but I just got on such a roll that I had to break it up into 2. Time to say hello to a few listeners. Gabrielle from Rio de Janeiro left me a voice message on WhatsApp. Gabrielle is just starting with English, and he was extremely brave to leave me a message over a minute long. Believe me, I know how hard that is when you're just starting, before you have a lot of practice, and you see that blinking light on WhatsApp, and it just makes you more nervous. So congratulations and thank you to Gabriel for casting aside his fears and leaving me a really nice message. I also want to say hi to Nico from Germany. He's an electrician. He's doing night school, and he's also studying with us here at Plain English. Nico is a hard worker, as so many of you are. I'm always so impressed by how hard you all work, and you still find time to study English with us. Nico lives in Aachen, Germany. This is a good one. This is a really good one for today. The expression is better off. When you're better off, you are in a better situation, a more improved situation than the alternative. This is usually, but not always, related to financial considerations. Do you remember how you first heard it? I said that we are much better off today as a society than we were 50 years ago. Our situation today is better financially and materially than it was 50 years ago. We're better off today than we were collectively half a century ago. Better off materially, better off financially, but not necessarily happier, as you'll recall. If I got that promotion, I'd be a lot better off. I'd be in an improved financial situation. My friend is a lot better off now that he's moved into a smaller house. Wait, how can that be? A smaller house and he's better off? Well, his situation might be better because maybe that's better for his budget, or maybe it's in a better location. He might be better off paying less in rent so he can save money for something else. That new job sounds like a lot of stress. You're probably better off not taking it. It might mean more money, but the commute is too long and you'd miss time with your family. You're better off looking for a job closer to home. If you're not feeling well, you're better off staying home from work, if that's an option. If you go in, you might get everyone else sick and wind up feeling worse the next day anyway. You might be better off staying in bed. It might be better for you to stay in bed than to go to work. Time for our quote of the week. This will be quick. It's from the author J.R.R. Tolkien, the fantasy writer who wrote The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Here's the quote. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. Hoarded gold is like, what he means by that is money that you've saved and you aren't spending. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world, says the author J.R.R. Tolkien. That's all for today. Remember, if you like the topics and you want to read more about them, you'll want to be on our mailing list at plainenglish.com/mail. JR and I will be back with another exciting episode of Plain English on Thursday. See you then. If you've enjoyed today's episode, then you'll love Plain English Plus. That's because with Plain English Plus, you can get even more from your favorite English podcast. We offer video lessons, flashcards, 2 versions of every episode, and of course, our famous online transcripts with translations into 7 languages. What are you waiting for? Come join us at plainenglish.com/plus.